Kwame was an intelligent young man who fell in love with Abina because she met his criteria of an ideal wife. Their love life was a defensive one, which Kwame stood against anyone who wasn't willing to accept Abina as his choice. Kwame's mother, Esi, who loved her son so much that she borrowed to ensure Kwame gets the education he preferred, didn't like the idea of him getting married right after school, but had no choice than to accept the son's choice. Kwame eventually married Abina, which was fully financed by his mom out of love. Their union produced 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. Over time, Kwame grew distant from his mom and became one with his wife and his wife's family. All he did was neglect his family and invest heavily in his wife and family out of love because they are his future. Kwame's mother, Esi, cried days and nights because she felt betrayed by the son she wholeheartedly invested in and had so much hope in. Esi remembered the days she would wake before dawn, her body aching but her spirit determined, just to prepare Kwame for school. She remembered selling her clothes, borrowing from friends, and enduring silent ridicule from people who said she was wasting her efforts on a boy who might forget her one day. Those memories haunted her now, not because she regretted them, but because the son she raised with so much sacrifice no longer seemed to remember where he came from. Kwame, on the other hand, believed he was doing the right thing. To him, marriage meant priority. Abena and the children were his responsibility, his future and his pride. He convinced himself that his mother would understand, that she was strong enough to manage without him the way she always had. Whenever guilt tried to creep into his heart, he silenced it with the thought that a man must build his own home and protect it at all costs. Abena noticed Esi's pain but chose to remain quiet. She never openly spoke against her mother-in-law, yet her actions slowly created distance. Family gatherings became centered around her relatives. Decisions were made without consulting Esi. Even the children, who once ran eagerly to their grandmother, now felt more comfortable around Abena's family, where laughter flowed easily and stories were told without tension. Esi felt invisible. When Kwame passed her house without stopping, her heart tightened. When she heard about family meetings she was not invited to, her tears came silently. She never confronted her son directly. Instead, she carried the burden alone, hoping one day he would remember her sacrifices without being reminded. Kwane's siblings noticed the change too. They whispered among themselves, wondering how the brother who once defended their mother so fiercely had become so distant. Some felt anger, others disappointment, but none dared to challenge Kwame openly. He had built walls around his new life, and anyone who questioned his choices was seen as an enemy of his happiness. As time passed, the gap between mother and son widened. Simple conversations became awkward, visits were short and rare. Esi would prepare food in anticipation of Kwame's arrival, only to pack it away untouched when he failed to show up. Each missed visit felt like a reminder that her place in his life had shifted. Kwame continued to pour his energy into his wife and children, believing that love meant focus and loyalty. Yet deep inside, there was a quiet unease he could not fully explain. Sometimes, late at night, he remembered his mother's voice encouraging him, her hands guiding him, her sacrifices shaping the man he had become. Esi, alone with her thoughts, wondered where she went wrong, questioning whether loving her son too much had cost her everything. she prayed silently, not for wealth or recognition, but for understanding, hoping that one day Kwame would see her pain without her having to speak it aloud. And so the silence between them grew heavier, filled with unspoken words, unresolved emotions, and memories that refused to fade. Years after Kwame slaved for his wife and family, neglecting his own, there was a misunderstanding between him and Abena, which made Abena decide to stand with her family and left Kwame to his fate. The separation shook Kwame deeply. For the first time in many years, he found himself alone, surrounded by silence, instead of the noise of children and family gatherings. The people he had invested everything in were no longer by his side, and the walls he had built to protect his new life now felt like a prison. Nights became long, filled with regrets and memories he could no longer escape. It was during this lonely period that Kwame's thoughts returned constantly to his mother, Essie. He remembered his sacrifices with painful clarity, the loans he took, the hunger she endured, the unwavering belief she had in him. He realized that in trying to secure his future, he had abandoned the very foundation that made that future possible. The pain he once ignored now became his daily companion. With humility and a broken heart, Kwame sought to rebuild his life on wiser grounds. He went back to his roots, approaching life with patience instead of pride. He learned to listen more, to value balance, and to understand that love does not require neglecting one responsibility for another. Slowly, he began to mend relationships he had once taken for granted, carrying with him the lessons born from loss and regrets. Kwame understood too late that loyalty should never be one-sided, and that family, whether by blood or by marriage, thrives best when nurtured with fairness, gratitude, and respect. Though the scars of his past decisions remained, they became reminders of growth rather than chains of bitterness. Moral lesson: life demands balance. In building a future, one must never forget the sacrifices of the past. Love that ignores gratitude breeds regret, and success without remembrance is incomplete. Those who honor their roots stand stronger when life's storms arrive.